takes off. He's going to steal home without a play.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, and our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the New York Yankees in the final game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Yankees, right-hander Clark Schmidt, and for the Padres, San Diego's own right-hander Joe Musgrove. Hi again, everyone. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 1:10 here in downtown San Diego. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, you'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. You'll also hear from Joe Musgrove, Kyle Higashioka, and Fernando Tatis Jr. But first, let's set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside. Padres entered today with a record of 27-28. Padres went 5-2 on a road trip to Atlanta and Cincinnati before coming home and losing 2 straight to the Yankees. This will be just the Padres' second series loss in their last 8 series. Padres trying to avoid a sweep here today. Meanwhile, the Yankees have been the best team in the American League. They come in at a record of 37-17. Yankees are 18-5 in the month of May. They've won 11 of their last 13 games. Yankees have hit 28 home runs in that 13-game span. We'll see if the Padres can slow this Yankee offense down here on this Sunday in downtown San Diego. Before we turn our full attention to today's game, let's take a quick look back at what went down last night here at Petco Park.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
The Yankees got off to a hot start for a second straight night. Anthony Volpe hit a leadoff single against Dylan Cease. With 1 out, it was Aaron Judge.
Volpe, small lead, held by Arise. 0-2 to Judge. The pitch from Cease, swung on, hit in the air. Very deep left field, he's done it again. Second deck for Judge. He has homered in 4 consecutive games. Only the 3rd time in his career he's done that. A 2-run shot here in the first inning. And the Yankees take a 2-0 lead.
It stayed a 2-0 game until the top of the 4th inning. That's when Anthony Rizzo dug in with runners on 2nd and 3rd.
Old school 1-2 hit on the ground through the right side, a base hit, and it worked. Judge has scored. Verdugo will advance to 3rd. RBI single Anthony Rizzo, and a 3-0 Yankee lead.
A sac fly from Gleyber Torres later in the inning made it 4-0. Meanwhile, the Padres had a few early scoring chances against Marcus Stroman. They had the leadoff man on in the first inning, 2 on with 2 out in the second. Leadoff triple in the 4th. They could not score. Cease would give the Padres some length. He did pitch into the 7th inning. He ended up going 6 2/3 innings. The 4 runs given up. Meanwhile, Marcus Stroman was great. He pitched 6 shutout innings for the Yankees. Fast forward to the bottom of the 8th inning. Padres still down 4-0. Fernando Tatis Jr. got the Padres on the board.
1-2 to Tatis. Pitch on the way. Fernando swings, skies one to deep center field. Judge is back on the warning track at the wall. Leaps up, gonna go! Home run, Fernando Tatis Jr. Padres finally break through in the run column. A solo shot with 1 out here in the 8th inning, his 9th of the season, and it's a 4-1 game.
That was all the Padres would get in this one. Final score, Yankees 4, Padres 1, as the Padres have dropped the first 2 games of this 3-game series to the Yankees. We'll see if they can bounce back here today with San Diego's own right-hander Joe Musgrove on the mound. As always, if you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can tweet at me at SammyLev, SammyLev. Find me on Instagram, same handle there, DM me, or you can comment comment on one of our fancy new video streams on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Let me know what is your key to today's game. May just read your key to the game coming up a little bit later. As we get ready for this series finale against the Yankees, let's go inside the Padres radio booth.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Jesse Agler in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
From inside the Western Metal Building to behind home plate at Petco Park, we're joined by Padres radio voice Jesse Agler as we get ready for today's game, series finale between the Padres and the Yankees. Jesse, they say it's not just who you play, but it's when you play them, and the Padres are playing the Yankees at a time where they are just clicking on all cylinders. Their offense has been great. Their starting pitching has been terrific. Jesse, how do you put in context the final game of this series and really what we've seen from New York the first two games of this set?
Yeah, I think you have it right. I mean, the Yankees are clicking right now. 20 games over 500, and, I don't consider myself a baseball expert necessarily, but I can share this with you. Generally, teams do not get 20 games above 500 by accident. Usually there's a lot going on that gets you to that point, particularly this early in the year. And it's not just that they're 37-17. It's, as you said, they've won 11 out of their last 13 in that time. Just put aside the home runs for a minute. In those 13 games, their starting pitchers have an ERA of 0.78. So, I mean, even if they weren't hitting the way that they're hitting it, even if Aaron Judge wasn't on an unbelievable heater, even if Anthony Volpe didn't have the longest hitting streak by a Yankee since a Derek Jeter hitting streak a dozen years ago, I mean, they'd still probably be winning most of these games. You can pick whatever baseball cliche you want. Not who you play, when you play, yes, that applies. Certainly, it all begins with good starting pitching. Yes, that applies here. I mean, you can really go any number of directions with them. And, the Yankees have flexed their muscles, literally and otherwise here this weekend. And now, obviously, for the Padres, the idea is to avoid the sweep. And hopefully Joe Musgrove can lead the way for that.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about Joe Musgrove making his second start off the IL here today through 66 pitches in that first outing in Cincinnati. Obviously has to face a really tough lineup in the Yankees today. How do you view this start for Joe? What are some of the keys for him today, Jesse?
Yeah, for Joe, obviously, the command, I'm sure, of all of his pitches is going to be critical. And, Joe is a guy who often takes an inning or two to sort of feel out what's happening on a given day. We see that, and we saw it in his return from the injured list on Tuesday in Cincinnati. The Reds knocked him around a little bit early on in that game. He then appeared to settle in, but the pitch count got him at that point. First start off the IL, you said it was at 66 pitches, so not all the way built up. But he looked like he was about to get on one of those Joe Musgrove rolls that, we see him on so often, but he just kind of ran out of time because of that. So, look, unfortunately for Joe, you're in a situation today with these guys coming up right out of the chute. You don't necessarily have the luxury of being able to have time to try and settle in because, as we've seen the last 2 days, if that's the way it goes, you could find your team down early in a hurry. And I think, with the way Clark Schmidt is pitching, the Yankee starter, with the way the Padre offense has been quiet, that's not necessarily the ideal formula for success. Not to say the Padres can't come from behind because they've done it a bunch this year. But, you would love to see Joe be able to get out there, have a good first couple of innings. And then, the reality of this day is that there is going to be a pitch count for Joe Musgrove, whether it's around 80, 85, I don't know. But this is not going to be fully unleashed Joe Musgrove here this afternoon in his second start off the injured list.
Yeah, good points all the way around. I was going through my keys to the game, and I was looking at it, and I said to myself, you know what? The very first inning, top of the first, that seems like a big key based on what the Yankees are doing right now. If you can somehow limit Volpe, Soto, and Judge the first time around, that's a good place to start as the Padres try to win the final game of this series. Jesse, as always, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Bob Scanlon coming up at the top of the hour at 1 p.m., and we'll see if the Padres can get a win against a red-hot Yankees team. Thanks so much.
You got it, Sammy.
All right, that is Jesse Agler joining us here on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. A lot to do between now and first pitch. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Plus, coming up a little bit later, we revisit last night's post-game comments from Fernando Tatis Jr. I thought they were pretty interesting last night you may have missed them. Fernando talking about his approach at the plate, some of the early season struggles. Fernando did have a home run last night, so we'll hear from Fernando. We'll also hear from today's starting pitcher, Joe Musgrove. We'll hear from Kyle Higashioka, the former Yankee, catching Joe Musgrove here today for the Padres. So a lot to do as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 1:10. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues after this on the Padres Radio Network. Park as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 1:10 between the Padres and the New York Yankees. Padres dropping the first two games of this three-game series. We'll see if they can bounce back here today with right-hander Joe Musgrove on the mound for San Diego. Everybody having a good time here inside the loft. We've got plenty of people in here already on what is turning into a very nice Sunday afternoon on this Memorial Day weekend. It was a little bit of May gray earlier today as I woke up in Pacific Beach, made my way to the ballpark. Clouds at the ballpark early on, but I can see some blue sky up there now, so the sun hopefully will come out at some point, and we should have a very nice day of baseball on this Sunday. Remember, just a quick reminder for you, tomorrow the Padres begin a three-game series against the Miami Marlins. First pitch tomorrow at 3:40 p.m., so it is not a normal Monday night start time. It is Memorial Day, so really a day game tomorrow, 3:40 p.m. first pitch. Michael King on the mound against the Marlins tomorrow, and then it'll be a 6:40 first pitch on Tuesday, 1:10 first pitch on Wednesday. But again, tomorrow on Memorial Day, 3:40 p.m. first pitch for that series opener against the Miami Marlins. As we get ready for this series finale against the Yankees, let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
Day game after a night game, so no pregame media availability today for Mike Shildt. So let's revisit some of what Mike had to say after yesterday's game. Another tough one for the Padres. They dropped yesterday's game 4-1 to the Yankees. Dylan Cease, 6 2/3 innings, 4 earned runs given up. The Padres just got 1 run. That was on Fernando Tatis Jr.'s solo home run in the 8th inning, his 9th home run of the season. In fact, the Padres have just 1 run on 7 hits in the first 2 games of this series. And yes, the offensive struggles continued here at home. Here was some of what Mike Shildt had to say after last night's game.
What is it going to take to get this offense going at home? And are there different things that you need to do here as opposed to kind of the way you've been clicking on the road?
I mean, I don't have a tremendous answer for that, which is, not what you probably want to hear or people listen want to hear. I mean, we take good at-bats consistently, and then, at home we haven't taken as many consistent at-bats in the last 5 games, and I don't want to make this bigger than it is and create a narrative that is there, but, again, not make it bigger than it is. We haven't scored 8 runs in the last 5 games at home, and that's just hadn't been good enough. We've also, given up a fair amount of home runs as well. But our K-to-walk ratio is 7-1. We walked 7 guys in the last 5 games at home. So we're not beating ourselves is some of the point, on the pitching side. We're just giving up some homers. And we played clean defensively. We got, again, a 7-1 K-to-walk ratio, which we'd take any day of the week with the league average being 3-1. But you got to score, and we got to keep the ball in the ballpark.
Could getting Fernando going potentially with a swing like that?
Oh, for sure.
What ways could that help, and how big would he be if he could kind of get rolling the way he has in the past?
Yeah, let me count the ways. I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, this guy's a, huge part of our offense. Is a big swing tonight. He's been taking better swings, and he gets going, and it only takes a couple swings, a couple balls falling. Next thing you know, we're right back where we want to be. So, we need more guys on base, consistent at bats. To be able to do some of the, play the game we like to play it, which is very aggressive in a lot of different ways. We just hadn't had the lead, and we've been on our heels.
Can you elaborate on what Fernando's been working through? It looks like he's been searching a lot in the backs, trying some different things.
Yeah, I mean, it's a better question for him maybe to be able to walk you through that. But, there's been some things that I know he's been working on with Victor, and all the feedback and talking to him, he feels like he's in a good place. Last night after the game, said he felt good. Had a borderline pitch that maybe not too borderline his first at bat. It was, felt like he worked a walk. There's a big thing for him is this, being able to get the ball in the zone. And then he had a really good 0-2 to 3-2 walk, last night, and said he saw the ball good and felt good, and clearly put a good swing on the ball to center tonight. So I think those are good indicators for him.
After last night's game, let's hear a little bit of what Mike Shildt actually had to say before yesterday's game. Good question by Pedro Gutierrez asking about Joe Musgrove on the mound today. Here was Mike Shildt on Joe Musgrove going against the Yankees today.
Joe's going to be built up now. He was a 65-ish, went a little bit over that last outing. Feels good, recovered well. Side was good yesterday. Now he's going to be back in more of that, 85 range where, he can go and feel good about grabbing that, 6, 7 innings or 5 or whatever that looks like. But no, he's back in the rotation as an established starter, and it's Joe Musgrove. So we'll be fired up to see him pitch again and give us a chance to win a ball game.
And the really important part about that for Mike Shildt, the pitch number there, sounded about 85 pitches. That would make sense considering Joe threw 66 in that first start off the IL today. So keep that in mind as we get started here today. Joe Musgrove, he's not going to throw 110 pitches today. Probably the most around 85 like we just heard from Mike Shildt. And we'll hear more from Mike Shildt on our postgame show later on today when this one is over. Let's tell you now who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
We begin with the hot category. We'll keep Luis Ariz in there here today. Had a base hit last night, batting .457 in his last 10 games. Anthony Volpe for the Yankees, certainly in that category right now, hitting .333 with 12 runs scored during an 18-game hitting streak. Aaron Judge, he's in that category right now. Buckle up, here we go. Judge has homered in 4 consecutive games. He's hitting .455 with an 1192 OPS in his last 13 games. 8 home runs, 14 RBIs, 17 runs scored in that span. Judge is looking to homer in 5 consecutive games for the second time in his career. He did it in 2020. Judge now has a 1050 OPS. That leads the major leagues, and he's now tied for the major league lead in home runs. And I should remind you, Judge did not get off to a great start in the month of April, but the month of May, he has been unbelievable. And Aaron Judge batting third once again for the Yankees here today. Padres have to be very careful with them. As far as the not category, we do take a look at a couple of Padres. Jake Cronenworth has cooled off a bit. Last 8 games batting just .207. Kyle Higashioka getting the start today, day game after a night game. He's hitless in 7 of his last 8 starts, 2 for 22 in that span. And as far as the not list for the Yankees, nobody super cold there. You look at Gleyber Torres sitting only .222 on the year, so we'll throw Gleyber Torres in that not category today. For the year, .222, lowest batting average in the Yankee lineup. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 1:10 here in downtown San Diego. When we come back on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we'll take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. Plus, we'll hear from Joe Musgrove. We'll hear from Kyle Higashioka. And like I said earlier, we'll revisit some of the post-game comments from Fernando Tatis Jr. as well. Final game of this 3-game series coming up in just a little bit on this Memorial Day weekend. You're listening to Padres Baseball on the Padres Radio Network. building at Petco Park as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 1:10, final game of this 3-game series between the Padres and the Yankees. The Yankees have played really, really well this weekend. They're playing really, really well right now in general. They've won the first 2 games of this series. Padres trying to return the favor on this Sunday afternoon. Before we continue on with our normal pregame segments, we'll hear from Joe Musgrove and Kyle Higashioka coming up in just a little bit as well. Let's revisit some of what Fernando Tatis Jr. had to say inside the Padres clubhouse after last night's game. Fernando hitting a solo home run in the 8th inning, only run the Padres scored, his 9th of the season. Obviously, the first third of the season, the production level from Fernando, not what I think everybody expected, not what Fernando wants either. Here was Fernando after last night's game. He begins by talking about what he's working on right now at the plate.
Just trying to get the right approach in the plate right now. I can try any different mechanics. As a hitter, I can do probably anything, but it's right now for me, it's trying to have the right approach in the plate.
What does that approach look like to you? Was the 8th inning or 7th inning tonight an example of that?
I need to stop missing my fastball that many times. They give me a couple of pitches that should be driving, and right now I'm just missing them. So I need to get more picky on the plate.
Do you feel like the mechanics for the approach has been the bigger thing that you've been working on recently?
More of approach. They're just being outsmarting me right now, and I just keep missing pitches. So, that should not be happening.
They pitching you differently than earlier in the year overall, or differently than past years?
Yeah, totally different than past years. I need to learn how to be a little bit more patient on the plate, but that's kind of not in myself as a hitter, so it's more of controlling my damage zone. I see it that way.
As a group, you guys have been, we asked you this the other day, but you guys have been better on the road. What does it take to do some of those things here? Is it a different mindset here, given kind of the way this ballpark plays?
I wish I would have had that answer already so I can give it to the group. We could make a better approach and just play better at home, but there's no excuses. We just need to figure it out as a group and just play better at home.
That was Fernando Tatis Jr. after last night's game. We'll see if the home run in the 8th inning last night was a sign of things to come for Fernando. And you heard Fernando talk about the team's offensive struggles at home to begin this season. And we'll see if the Padres can get it going offensively in this building here on this Sunday. Let's update you on some Yankees injuries as we give you our injury report.
Who's in, who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Couple of updates for the Yankees, and we'll start with the Yankees because no real updates for the Padres. Obviously, the news of the last week or so, Xander Bogaerts on the IL for a while, but we knew that. So let's focus on some items affecting today's game. Let's start with Jose Trevino, the catcher for the Yankees. He had been out for a couple of days due to an illness, but he's back in there today doing the catching, batting 8th for the Yankees. As far as other injuries, we did expect that Ian Hamilton, a right-handed reliever in the Yankees bullpen, sounded like the last couple of days he was going to be activated from the IL today, but Aaron Boone apparently saying that the plan now is for Hamilton to be activated on Tuesday. So no Ian Hamilton in the bullpen for the Yankees today. And finally, John Birdie hurt himself on Friday night here at Petco Park. That is a high-grade left calf strain, Aaron Boone said earlier today. So Birdie is on the 10-day IL, but a high-grade left calf strain. So Birdie not available for the Yankees, obviously, and that's a look at the injuries affecting this series in today's game as the Padres and Yankees wrap up this 3-game set. Now let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We take a look at scores from around the major leagues. We had a wild game in Detroit. The Tigers beat the Blue Jays 14-11 already. That was earlier today. Matt Vierling won it for Detroit on a walk-off 3-run home run. In fact, the Tigers trailed by 2 in the 8th inning. They tied it with a couple of runs, and then it was 11-11 in the 9th inning, and the Tigers won it on Vierling's 3-run home run. So very exciting there. What a win for the Tigers. We take a look at other scores from around the major leagues. Giants ahead of the Mets 3-1 in New York in the 8th inning. Reds ahead of the Dodgers 4-1 in Cincinnati in the 9th inning. Reds, if they hang on, they will sweep that series from LA. How about that? The Cincinnati Reds doing some work against the Dodgers. Braves beat the Pirates, or I should say beating the Pirates 6-1 in Pittsburgh in the 8th inning right now. Red Sox ahead of the Brewers 2-1 at Fenway Park in the 8th inning. Mariners ahead of the Nationals 6-5 in D.C., 8th inning there. We go to Tampa Bay, Rays 4, Royals 1 in the 7th. White Sox and the Orioles have not yet started in Chicago. They're in a rain delay before first pitch right now in Chicago. Rangers ahead of the Twins 4-1 in Minnesota in the 4th inning. Rockies and the Phillies in Colorado. Rockies 3, Phillies nothing in the 2nd. And a few games yet to begin aside from this one. Guardians and the Angels in Anaheim at 107. Astros and the A's in Oakland at 107. Marlins and the Diamondbacks in Arizona at 110. Marlins will come to San Diego. Quick turnaround there. They'll play here tomorrow. And finally, the Cubs and the Cardinals in St. Louis at 4 o'clock, Sunday Night Baseball in St. Louis. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Sunday across the major leagues. Well, we take a quick look at the starting lineup for the Padres today. It looks like this. Luis Arraez at first base leading off. Fernando Tatis Jr. in right field batting second. Jurickson Profar in left field batting third. Jake Cronenworth, the second baseman, batting cleanup. Manny Machado at third base batting fifth. David Peralta back in the lineup today, DHing batting sixth. Jackson Merrill in center field batting seventh. Ha-Sung Kim, the shortstop, batting eighth. And Kyle Higashioka, day game after a night game behind the plate for the Padres today, batting ninth. Of course, Higashioka, one of 6 players on the Padres roster that has played for the Yankees before. And Kyle Higashioka, we talked to him about it before, even all the way back to spring training. Obviously spent a long time in the Yankees organization, a 7th-round pick by the Yankees in 2008. And Higashioka drafted out of high school out of Huntington Beach. So you think about that. Higashioka was with the Yankees organization from 2008 until 2023. That's a long time. He spent a long time in the minor leagues, then made his major league debut in 2017, and then gets traded after the 2023 season. So Higashioka facing his former team for the very first time. Higashioka spoke inside the Padres clubhouse yesterday about his feelings at the time of the trade from New York.
I mean, I think towards the end of the season last year, I could kind of see the writing on the wall a little bit. So I think I was a little more mentally prepared for it than maybe some of the other guys that came over. But that being said, it's always tough to leave a group of guys that you've known for so long. But at the same time, you're not going to play forever, and you're not going to, it's like you're either going to retire one day or you're going to move to a different team, or you'll move to different teams many times, and it's just part of the game. So, I have an opportunity here to be on the team and play, so you got to make the best of it.
As a California kid, has this been nice?
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. It's been pretty cool being a little closer to home, and my family gets to see me all the time, so they're happy.
That was Padres catcher Kyle Higashioka yesterday inside the Padres clubhouse. Higashioka playing against his former team for the very first time today. We'll see if Higashioka can get it going against the Yankees. We'll hear from today's starting pitcher, Joe Musgrove, coming up in just a little while. But first, let's give you our keys to the game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Key number 1, Joe limiting the home run ball. Let's dive into this. The Yankees have hit 28 home runs in their last 13 games. They lead the major leagues with 80 home runs this season. Joe Musgrove, meanwhile, has allowed 10 home runs to begin his season. That's right now tied for 6th most allowed in the major leagues. And to put the 10 home runs into context, Joe allowed just 10 home runs in his 97 innings total last season. So again, he's allowed 10 already this year. Gave up just 10 home runs all year last year in 97 innings. 3 names to watch out for as far as the power for the Yankees. And as we know, it doesn't stop here, but these 3 guys, they are mighty important. Judge, Soto, and Stanton. They represent 44 of the Yankees' 80 home runs this season. How about this? Those 3 guys have combined to hit more home runs than the total for 8 teams in the major leagues. So they've hit more, those 3, than 8 major league teams. Those teams combined. Well, not all combined, not all 8, but you get what I'm saying. Their rosters individually. Pretty impressive. So, key number 1, how does Joe navigate that trio? Judge, Soto, Stanton, and the Yankees home run threat. That's a big key number 1. Key number 2, let's stay on Musgrove. Let's stay on pitching. How about the first inning? I mentioned it earlier with Jesse. You look at the first inning on Friday. Anthony Volpe, leadoff triple. Aaron Judge, sac fly. Just like that, Padres down 1-0 in the first inning. You look at yesterday. Volpe, leadoff single. Judge, a 2-run home run. Just like that, the Padres down 2-0 in the first inning. Wouldn't it feel good today to get out of that top of the first inning with a scoreless game? I think it'd feel pretty good, right? So let's zero in on that top of the first inning in particular. To me, that first inning today, getting through Volpe, Soto, Judge, Verdugo, Stanton, however long it takes, getting through that first inning with a 0, that feels like a very, very specific but very, very big key in this game. So that's key number 2. Key number 3, don't let Clark Cruz. Clark Schmidt is having a really good season for the Yankees. No surprise, because the Yankees starting pitching has thrown 25 1/3 consecutive scoreless innings. They have been just remarkable as of late. Yankee starters have allowed 2 runs or fewer and thrown 5+ innings in 13 consecutive games. That's a 0.78 ERA in that span. If the Yankees have another start like that today from Clark Schmidt, that would tie an MLB record 14 straight starts with 2 runs or fewer given up and 5 or more innings pitched. That's how good they've been, the starting rotation for New York. So the question today, can the Padres get to this guy, Clark Schmidt? Can they get to a Yankee starter? One other note on Clark Schmidt. If he's good early, there may be some hope later in the outing. Here's why. Schmidt this season, against opposing hitters, their first and second plate appearances, opposing hitters are batting .211. But once you get to him, that third plate appearance, that third time through the order, that opponent batting average jumps up to .308, a .950 OPS, the third trip through the order. So keep that in mind. Even if Schmidt is good early on, maybe it comes a little bit later, the success against Clark Schmidt. We'll see if the Padres can get it going against Schmidt here today. That's a look at our keys to the game as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 1:10. When we come back on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we'll tell you what to watch for in today's game. We'll also hear from today's starting pitcher, Joe Musgrove, and we take a very deep dive into our pitching matchup between Joe and right-hander Clark Schmidt. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues when we come back here at Petco Park on the Padres Radio Network. Petco Park as we walk you up towards first pitch coming up at 1:10. Final game of this 3-game series between the Padres and the Yankees. It's Military Sunday here with the Padres, and we want to give a special salute to all our active duty service members, veterans, and their families. San Diego County Toyota dealers are proud partners of the Padres and honored to support San Diego's military community. Now let's tell you what to watch for in today's game.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game. We focus, we zero in on the offense. Can the Padres get this offense going at home? And will a day game make a difference? Here is why I bring it up. Padres have lost 5 in a row here at home. They've scored just 8 runs in those games. So they got to get the offense going. We know that. We've been over the numbers how many times in the last couple of weeks. Padres are now 10-17 in this building in 2024. But one point of hope, they're 7-2 in home day games, 3-15 in night games. Let me repeat that. They're 7-2 during the day here. They're 3-15 at night here. And by the way, the cutoff for day games is any game starting before 5 p.m. So can the Padres get this offense going here in the daytime? If they win here today, are we continuing this trend where they are really good here during the day, but during the night they're not? What to watch for? Does the trend continue? The day games continue to be a really good thing here at home. That's what to watch for in today's game. We'll take a look at our entire pitching matchup between Joe Musgrove and Clark Schmidt in just a moment. First, let's hear some of what Joe Musgrove had to say inside the Padres clubhouse yesterday. Here was Joe on facing the Yankees.
Yeah, I'm excited. I saw them a little bit in Houston, saw them a couple times in Pittsburgh. Very different team now, good hitting lineup. But I'm excited. I feel like my stuff matches up well. It's just going to be a game of execution.
It's an interesting matchup in that regard, I think, because you often talk about pitching to your strengths, necessarily not to opponents' weaknesses. Right. This matchup's a little different because they're so hot and because of the power threat. How do you view that?
I think you got to find your time throughout the course of the game to take some chances. You can't just live and die with the pitches that you can beat them with. You got to be able to show them stuff that they like to hit and just try to pick the right times to go in there. So we're going to kind of let the game dictate that and what we see dictate that. But, I'm going to challenge them at certain times, and then there's other times where I might pitch them a little more carefully and just kind of, prey on those weaknesses. So
don't want to put words in anybody's mouth because I know it's early. But does this serve as any type of measure for you guys as a club? Is it an early litmus test, or is it just another game or series?
It's really just another game. I think you see, the true team's character and, who they are come out when it comes time for playoffs and when, things are down and every game matters. So, and not to say that these don't, but yeah, I guess you can look at the matchups and see how we play. But I think when you come down the stretch of the season, everyone's got 100-plus games under their belt. They've built a little chemistry as a group. They've found their rhythm as a team. So, I don't think what you see now, whether we win all 3, lose all 3, I don't think that'll dictate too much of what you should see in the postseason.
That was Joe Musgrove inside the Padres clubhouse yesterday. Speaking of Joe, let's preview our pitching matchup between Musgrove and Clark Schmidt.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Right-hander Clark Schmidt on the mound for the Yankees, 5-2, a 2.59 ERA in 10 starts, really in the midst of a breakout season. He had a 4.64 ERA last season in his first full year as a starting pitcher in the major leagues. Coming off a start last Tuesday against Seattle, 5 innings, 2 earned runs given up. Last 3 starts for Schmidt, an 0.92 ERA in 19-plus innings. This will be Clark's first ever outing against the Padres and at Petco Park. He's also been really good on the road, a 1.47 ERA in 5 starts away from New York. Meanwhile, on the mound for the Padres, right-hander Joe Musgrove, 3-4, a 6.14 ERA in 9 starts. His last start earlier this week in Cincinnati, 3 innings, 1 earned run given up, 3 hits allowed, 66 pitches. That was his first start since coming off the IL. made his only other start against the Yankees exactly 1 year ago on May 26, 2023. That was at Yankee Stadium. Joe was very good that day. 6 innings and a third, 1 earned run given up, and he struck out 6. And that's a look at our pitching matchup today between Joe Musgrove and Clark Schmidt. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. When we come back, Jesse Agler, Bob Scanlon have first pitch and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our postgame show. You're listening to your home for Padres baseball, the Padres Radio Network.